Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Elizabeth.
This is my son, William. William, this is your Uncle Daniel.
How do you do, sir?
A chip off the old block, eh, Elizabeth? From the set of his shoulders, I would say that he takes after his father.
People have remarked on the resemblance.
Well, my boy, do you remember me?
Uncle Daniel. I did once have an Uncle Daniel. I believe he went abroad.
Off to make my fortune in Australia. I've made it. Now I'm back to claim my own.
William.
I remember. There's an old photograph in a silver frame. Mamma keeps it in her dressing table. You wore a beard and held an old-fashioned stovepipe hat. You're still very straight and stiff.
It was a long time ago.
Yes, I imagine so, for you are obviously much, much older now.
And so are you, my boy. Now then, off with you. Your mother and I have matters of business to discuss.
Yes, sir. I trust I may shortly have the pleasure of renewing our acquaintance.
You can bet your boots on it.
Boots? Oh, yes, sir. Goodbye, Mamma. Uncle Daniel.
Well, Elizabeth, you're not a day older.
I owe time a mounting debt, which no doubt someday I shall be asked to pay.
But not today.
No, not today.
The fashion becomes you.
Thank you.
An improvement on the crinoline. All those hoops and whalebone. So constricting. Do you remember?
I remember.
I have done well, Elizabeth. Very well. Were Albert alive, I could match him a gold piece for every penny he could muster.
I trust you are not suggesting I was ever for sale to the highest bidder.
Of course not. And if you were, even I could not afford you.
It would seem your absence in the colonies has not only brought you wealth, but taught you gallantry as well. Has that gallantry yet extended to paying a call upon your wife?
Well, I plan to see her shortly. Poor Emma, I dealt hardly with her.
She deserved better than you, Daniel Fogarty.
Perhaps we deserved each other. There was little love lost between us. In fact, were it not that I have some business to conclude, I doubt I would trouble to impose myself upon her.
If your business is in the disposal of her property, I suggest you hasten to her bedside. A certain Mr. Macaulay has already made a bid for her Fraser holdings.
Ah, yes, Macaulay.
You know him?
Yes, I know Mr. Macaulay. I know him extremely well.
That man has been a thorn in our side ever since his arrival. He seems to have money to burn.
Indeed he has. And half of it is mine.
Yours?
Tom Macaulay is my partner.
What?
I sent him on ahead as a nominee to buy Emma's shares. What is her holding? About 30%?
Exactly 30%, as you well know. Just what is your interest?
Macaulay's parents were transported felons. That would be about 1820. Now, when Tom was of age, he was given a grant of land, currency lads, they call them. Now, when I first met him, he had land, but no stock. I had capital, but no experience. We put the two together, and now we own a cattle station the size of Wales. More sheep than a man can count, a gold mine, and money in many other enterprises. Well, I thought that might impress you.
You would do better to impress your partner before he skins you like a cat.
Tom Macaulay, never.
You may have learned a great deal about grazing hordes of smelly sheep and digging gold out of the ground, but you always had a poor head for business, Daniel.
I have learned a lot from Tom Macaulay.
I tell you, that man is lining his own pockets.
He wouldn't, not Tom.
He's a scoundrel to his fingertips.
Well, I'll have a word with him. Now, from the short time I've been in Liverpool, I've come to realize that you're not the best liked of men.
Well, who the devil needs to be liked?
You seem to have gone out of your way to create enemies.
Listen, I don't give a damn what this toffee-nosed bunch think. We've got money. And they jump when we say jump, and that suits me fine. You seen your wife yet?
Not yet.
I called on her the other day.
How was she?
We had a real nice talk, but it didn't get anywhere. She wouldn't sell. So I went back there this morning.
Well, what happened?
They wouldn't let me see her. She's dying.
inasmuch as it hath pleased Almighty God of his great mercy to take unto himself the soul of our dear sister Emma, we therefore commit her body to the ground. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Ghost be with us all forevermore. Amen.
She left me everything. She refused to sell to Macaulay. I don't understand it.
She loved you, Daniel.
Those two'll bear watching.
Well, you know Fogarty gets everything. Did you hear? After the way he treated poor Emma.
There's no accounting for folly.
Emma's shares would seem to make me a partner.
You are merely a shareholder, Daniel.
For the time being. What of the boy?
He'll come into Fraser's. He shows quite a talent for engineering.
Mama,
He takes after Albert.
By the by, I have it in mind to marry again, Robert.
Oh, yes.
I stand in need of a best man. I was wondering if,
To
if
who?
you'd oblige.
Harry? Oh, really, James?
What the devil do you imagine you were doing?
It's a most unladylike greeting. As you see, familiarizing myself with the company's affairs.
You would do well to remember that I am the majority shareholder and this company is mine.
Until our son comes of age.
Until my son comes of age.
But until that time, I am afraid you are saddled with me.
Yes. You and that scoundrel Macaulay.
Yes, Macaulay. I've been looking into his affairs. You were a fool, Elizabeth, and what on earth persuaded you to put yourself in his debt to the tune of £100,000?
Necessity.
Well, didn't you realize that he could foreclose at any time of his choosing?
Of course. But I'm not quite the fool you take me for. I have spent no more than 40,000, and if pressed, I can raise that against the shipyards.
You seem to be in an uncommon hurry to mortgage yourself to the hilt. Very well, I'll make out a draft for 40,000. It is as much in my interest as yours. After all, I am a partner.
You are not.
A junior partner, a very junior partner.
No, I simply exchange one debtor for another. In any event, he may not be willing to sell back his debentures. I can't force him.
Then convince him it's for his own good. Better the devil you know. You have but one choice, Elizabeth, me or Macaulay. Well, think about it. You don't have to use it unless Macaulay attempts to call in the debt. And you may have your desk. I was only borrowing it.
Well, do you want to rid yourself of Macaulay?
Well, I must admit I would prefer to have you to myself.
You've changed, Daniel. Never at a loss for words. I remember a time when the very presence of a member of the fairer sex would cleave your tongue to the roof of your mouth.
You still have that effect.
If I were to use this, I don't know how I could repay you.
Well, it could make a start by having dinner with me.
When I'd said you'd changed, I didn't mean for the better. I should like to have dinner with you, Daniel. But I do think first we ought to decide how to dispose of Macaulay, not just for my sake, but for yours as well.
Blow hot, blow cold, you never changed. Look, Tom Macaulay and I have been partners for years. I'd need good reason to break that up.
James has one.
No, James, he hasn't changed. As I remember, every time a pot boiled, he was always there, hard at work, fanning the flames.
He has evidence.
Of what?
Ask him. He'll part with it at a price.
Oh, of that I am sure.
Very well, I'll broach the subject. I have to see him about the wedding.
Mr. Fogarty, sir.
Well, James?
My, you are a dandy. You'll never compete with Albert, you know.
Still the same old James, always seeking the advantage, with the same vile taste in cigars. Try one of these. The tobacco's grown on one of my South African estates.
I'd sell out if I was you. No profit to be made in these.
I can well afford the indulgence.
Only a fool runs a business at a loss. You haven't changed, have you, Daniel? All right, let's get down to business.
Certainly. Now, I've been given to understand that you claim to have some kind of evidence that could be used against my partner, Mr. Macaulay.
Been chatting to Elizabeth, have you? No hope there, you know. She has a will of her own.
Have you or haven't you?
Evidence? So high. Enough to hang him.
Was it documented?
Oh, it carries conviction.
Very well. What is your price?
You do realize that in any partnership, the law holds that both partners are equally liable.
Well, I bear no responsibility for Macaulay's private transaction.
Oh, but you do. You're a fool, Daniel. You should have limited your liability.
But in the Australian outback,
Well, you're in England now, subject to English law.
I am as yet no wiser as to the offence my partner is alleged to have committed.
Coffin ships.
Coffin ships?
Aye. Over-insuring them, sending them out, and sinking them.
But I'd have nothing to do with it.
There's a lot of widows and orphans thirsting for Macaulay's blood.
You know me better than that.
Oh, yes, I believe you. But a judge might not be quite so understanding.
Now, what do you propose to do with this evidence?
Well, it could prove a very useful lever in the right hands. A partner can be quite an embarrassment if you have to share in everything that he does.
How much?
I'll take £10,000. Oh, and the management of the Robert Onedin shares.
5, and no more. I've learned a thing or two.
Very well. 5,000. There's a statement signed by able Seaman Kirk and witnessed.
Anything else?
Yes, some advice. Your partner's a rogue. He'll hang. Get rid of him. Buy him out if necessary.
I couldn't afford it.
Well, better still persuade him to buy you out. He's avaricious. He'll buy.
Dealing with you, Onedin, is like dealing with a boa constrictor. Can I keep this?
Oh, of course. It's only a copy.
Well, hasn't taken you long to get your feet under the table.
No, and I intend to keep him there.
Well, why not? You know, there were times in the outback when I'd have sold my soul for a bottle of this.
You sold that long ago.
Hello? Someone been scratching your back? Come on, out with it.
You were born a currency lad. You can't shake it off.
What are you on about?
You've been lambing me down, Tom.
No, on my oath I ain't. I've been straight with you, Dan boy.
As straight as a dog's hind leg.
Are you trying to rile me?
I sent you over here to buy in for me.
So I would have done, excepting your missus croaks and saves me the trouble. Have you got a share, so what are you bleeding
The
about?
Fraser debentures.
Ah, now that's a different matter. Now that's sauce for the gander, Daniel. My pockets are as well lined as yours.
And lending money to Robert Onedin. Who told you to do that?
Told? Told? Listen, you don't tell me to do anything. What I do with my own money is none of your business. Reckon I might even buy myself a country estate. 1,000 or so acres. Big house with turrets and battlements. Couple of dozen servants in my own livery. What do you think to that, eh?
Not here, Tom. I'm packing you off back to Australia.
You're packing me off. Oh, that's rich, that is. Listen, I'll crow on this midden or nowhere.
You'll crow on the gallows.
What?
You heard me. For partner, I've been with you in many things, but not murder.
You better choose your words more carefully.
Coffin ships.
I took a gamble.
You took no gamble. You made sure they went to the bottom.
Well, ships go to the bottom every day.
You paid to have them scuppered. Good men lost their lives. Men I might have sailed with. Old mates with wives and children left behind.
Ah, you're going soft, Dan. It's them toffee-nosed silvertails has got at you. Or maybe it's that golden-haired dolly mop, She been keeping you warm at nights?
Now, you hold your foul tongue or I'll stuff it down your throat.
Now, don't you come the heavy style with me, matey. Or we'll be breaking up some furniture, you and me.
Oh, no, rocks is all you'll be breaking.
Not without proof, I won't. I needn't give you this.
Aye.
What's his price?
I'll set the price.
Oh, no, you won't. We're partners. We sink or swim together in this.
Well, I'll take my chances. But you'll spend the rest of your days tossing cannonballs around.
You mean it?
I mean it.
All right, then. What's your price?
We'll end the partnership. I'll buy you out.
You ain't got that kind of money.
I've got a strong card, though. Of course, you could always buy me out. I don't care which way.
How much?
$1 million. It's worth more than that, and you know it. Very well for the Australian interests only. But I want the Fraser debentures and everything else you've acquired over here.
You're driving too hard a bargain, Daniel.
I'm not bargaining, Tom. I'm telling.
You're bluffing. I know you too well. You're soft. You'd never turn me in.
Fetch a constable. I wish to lay an information.
By the holy sailors. You mean it?
Goodbye, Tom.
I reckon I taught you too well.
Mr. Fogarty, sir.
I trust I'm not intruding. My wedding gift.
Robert's voting rights.
And a draft for 5,000. I'm a man of my word.
Better add you to the guest list then, eh? Everybody else seems to be coming. Have a glass of wine.
Good evening, Elizabeth.
Good evening, Daniel.
William plays very well.
Yes, he inherits that talent from me.
Well, now that I have settled with Macaulay, I think it time to call in my remaining debt.
Oh?
Your promise to have dinner together.
I should be delighted. Who shall we ask?
And why not invite our son?
My son. We shall do no such thing, and please keep your voice down.
I have every right.
You have no rights other than a quarterly rendering of the company's accounts.
Confound the fool. I must leave immediately.
Well, what is it?
Well, it's from the master of the Falcon. He's run her aground, just leaving Port Marrick. She's in danger of becoming a total wreck.
Port Marrick, North Wales. The very devil of a place to get into, as I remember.
Yeah, well, things haven't improved at all. I'll take the Charlotte roads.
You go through the Menai Straits?
Well, I have a contract to meet. Got to get there on time.
But you will be back. The wedding.
Oh, yes, yes, of course.
But you've only got 7 days.
Look, 36 hours out, 36 hours home. I'll have time to spare, eh?
Although James was strapped to his bootlaces for money.
With James, you never know which way the wind is blowing.
A habit that runs in the family.
I enjoyed our dinner together last night.
But now it's another day. You know, I'm only just beginning to know you, Elizabeth. Well, surely you'll grant that in 17 years I've learned something. 17 years we could have enjoyed together.
Oh, I doubt either of us would have gained much enjoyment.
Oh, perhaps. But we both have a constant reminder of our past. The boy must be told sometime, Elizabeth.
Not yet. Oh, I don't know. William and I seem to have grown apart recently. And he's still seeing far too much of Charlotte.
She's his cousin, slip of a girl.
Growing towards womanhood.
He goes to the house because he's working on that engine. Now, tell him the truth. He'll stop going to the house and he'll stop seeing so much of Charlotte.
Put like that, you make the answer sound so simple.
Well, it is.
No, Daniel. You're forgetting the boy himself, what the knowledge could do to him.
Elizabeth, he's nearly a grown man. It's only in your eyes that he's still a boy.
Allow me to know my own son, Daniel. We will tell him when I decide and not before. Charlotte recently?
No. Do you think her cold could be worse?
I'm not sure she has a cold, William.
But Letty said she had. She said it would be wiser if I didn't go into the house.
Yes, I know she did. When I was your age, grown-ups used to lie to me. Sometimes big lies, mostly white ones, because they felt it was for my own good.
Did you know Pythagoras discovered the octave?
William, the truth of the matter is that James and I thought you and Charlotte were seeing too much of each other. You do understand what I'm talking about?
Yes, Mama.
Daniel, what is all this urgency? I was just leaving for the yard. Could it not have waited?
Well, this is not business. On the evening of the 4th, you will be dining with me, Elizabeth.
Aren't you taking rather a lot for granted?
You will accompany me to the Guild Hall, where I shall be presented to the Home Secretary.
What?
And afterwards, we shall be dining at his table.
What is all this about?
You know, one of my gifts is the ability to listen. I've been listening to your brother Robert, and he's quite a shrewd fellow when it comes to politics.
Oh.
On Robert's advice, I made a substantial donation to party funds and an undertaking that Fraser's would increase employment, although I was careful not to say by how much.
Just what are you up to?
A private dream. But this is reality. We shall go to London to the Guild Hall. You must have a dress made for the occasion.
Could we?
There's nothing we couldn't do.
William.
I think the time has come, Elizabeth.
No, Daniel.
The boy is owed an explanation.
Yes, Mama. I think I am owed that.
William, as you've just witnessed, I love your mother very much. Now, this affection is not new. It goes back many years. In fact, more than 17 years.
You're my father, aren't you?
Yes. Elizabeth? Well, it's a good letter. He expresses himself very well.
Is that all you have to say?
Well, the boy's had a shock. His whole world has been turned upside down. He needs time to readjust.
So, having been the cause of driving him away, you propose to do nothing?
William is nearly a grown man. It's high time he came out from behind your petticoats.
I don't need a lecture, Daniel, on how to deal with my own son.
Now, you listen to me, Elizabeth. For the last month, he'd done nothing but lay blame on my head for telling him the truth. Now, whether that decision was wise or not, only time can tell, but it's done and we cannot turn the clock back. Any more than you can escape the fact that he is our son. Not mine, not yours, but ours. Elizabeth!
Oh, do forgive me for cutting short your speech, Daniel. But I have one of my own to make to Brother Robert. The War Office?
A regular run. 6 ships a year. Port side, then on to Bombay. They'll guarantee us 200 passengers, both out and back.
Yes, the rate seems very reasonable.
And quite a few of the officers will be returning not only with wives, but with furniture. We set our own freight rate.
How did you come by this?
Oh, someone owed me a favor from the past. And I found out he'd been promoted to the War Office.
And you had no hesitation in asking him to repay the favor?
We all have to pay our debts, Elizabeth. Sooner or later.
Oh, Daniel, please don't...
All I'm asking is that we try to begin anew.
I wonder. William!
Hello, Mama.
It's good to see you, William.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I imagine you and your mother have much to talk about. Why don't you both dine with me in my hotel suite this evening?
Well, that would be very... William?
Thank you, sir.
Excellent. I'll go and prepare the fatted calf. Or something similar.
You need a bath.
I do, don't I?
No, I don't think so, thank you. That was a most delicious meal.
Yes, thank you, sir.
You live very well, Daniel.
Well, I have comfort, yes. But it doesn't compensate for living alone.
Money isn't everything.
Yes, it is rather trite saying, isn't it? But having experienced both extremes, I think there's a certain truth in it.
Then perhaps you should seek happiness by giving your money away, sir.
William!
Well, who knows? I might just do that.
Oh, Daniel, do be serious.
In Dar, say, a dozen orphanages. Did you know I was an orphan, William?
No, sir.
Unlike you, I grew up under the shadow of not even knowing who my parents were.
I see. Then I think you have every right to be proud of your achievements, sir.
Oh, thank you, William. But if a man is true to himself, he can only advance in the world.
My thoughts entirely, sir. That is why I intend to be true to myself by not following in your footsteps.
Why?
I have no aspirations to be a sea captain like you, sir.
Now listen here.
Daniel.
Look, William, you're going to inherit phrases. The Fraser line, the Fraser yard. A knowledge of the sea is essential.
I already know a good deal about the sea, sir, and steam engines. Enough to talk to engineers, anyway. But if I'm to make a success of Fraser's, I believe a sound knowledge of modern business methods to be much more essential. The Fraser office hasn't changed since grandfather's time. Now, Uncle Robert, he's far more enterprising.
Robert, enterprising?
Yes, he's organized that retail store of his by the most up-to-date methods.
Well, the boy may well have a point, Elizabeth. So tell us, how would you go about reorganizing Fraser's?
To begin with, you have far too many clerks duplicating one another's work. Well, I feel that you should replace at least 2 of them with one of the new typewriting machines.
A noisy typewriter clattering away in my office?
A lady typewriter can produce 90 characters a minute, and every letter legible. Now compare that with the output of a clerk trained in copper plate.
A lady typewriter. Never.
Your mother's right. The clerks would never stand for it.
Then dismiss them.
No. Well, supposing you were given a free hand, could you do it?
I don't know.
And I suggest you think about it. An employer has a duty to his employees.
Yes, I know that, sir, but I'm talking about progress.
And I'm talking about obligations, such as your obligation to Miss Gaunt.
Sir?
She invested a good deal of money in your engineering ideas.
I asked her to keep a tally. I intend to repay her as soon as I can.
Daniel, if William were to come into the office, he could dispense with that workshop at the back of James's house.
Yes. Yes, perhaps we should find him a desk at Fraser's.
Thank you, Mamma. You too, Mr. Fogarty.
I'll ring for your carriage, Elizabeth. Why aren't you in the office?
I was this morning.
Well, this morning. You only work for half a day?
Mr. Dunwoody said there was nothing for me to do.
Something else you want at my desk, Daniel?
Well, if you will keep so many of the company papers here.
William, you said you'd come riding with me.
I'm sorry, Mamma, I forgot.
Well, I went to the office and they said you left at midday. Where have you been?
Oh, just out, wandering around.
Well, the next time you want to leave your work to wander around, you might ask me about it, William.
Yes, Mr. Fogarty.
And when are you going to stop calling me Mr. Fogarty?
What do you expect him to call you? Father? Daniel, when are you going to realize that you'll always be just plain Mr. Fogarty to him?
You know, it doesn't help matters if you take him from the office to go riding.
Well, I thought it would do us both good. Anyway, he didn't come.
No, and he didn't work either. Now, it's high time he learned the business from the bottom up. Now, I know the boy has ability.
You know he can't even dance?
He can't dance? Elizabeth, what on earth has that got to do with business?
Well, if he's to take over Fraser's, he'll need to keep up a position in society. People will expect it of him. I'll not have you making him so dull.
You don't give me much of a chance to make anything of him.
Perhaps that's force of habit. After all, I brought him up on my own for 17 years, didn't I? Sewing up old sacks? Wherever did you hear that?
From Charlotte.
Really?
I just happened to run into her in Uncle Robert's shop. Do you know who's talking of opening a new department store in Church Street?
Did you hear that from Charlotte, too?
No.
You know, William, it wouldn't be a bad idea for you to meet one or two other young ladies. As a matter of fact, I've been invited to a soiree next Wednesday evening. Would you care to take me? Well, there'll be lots of people there your own age. Their daughters, for instance. I know you'd enjoy it.
Do I have to, Mama? I'm sure Mr. Fogarty would prefer to take you. Would you not, Father?
Well, if your mother would like you to accompany her, I'd hate to think that my wishes stood in the way.
Well, perhaps we could all three go. Then I'd have two dancing partners.
You said a soiree.
Yes, well, I'm sure there'll be some dancing.
I'm no good at dancing, you know that. Where are you both going today?
The races.
Well, I hope you have a very pleasant time together.
Now, why don't... You still want to come? I mean, if you're afraid that William disapproves, you only have to say no.
I said we'd go, and go we will. With or without William's approval.